USC students wrapped around the Galen Center 2.5 hours before tip. Why? Number 8 UCLA is on campus and their 19-2 record. It is the 246th meeting between USC and UCLA, and it's coming your way live next here on FS1. Rob Stone, Steve Lavin here with you. Before we get to tip-off, you see these two teams as actually mirroring one another. Why is that?
Well, they both were undefeated in the non-conference schedule. Both teams prefer a high-octane attack offensively, and both teams, since stepping in Pac-12 play, have exposed some vulnerabilities, defensively in particular, dribble containment and resistance at the rim. So the team that wins this game, Rob, will be the one that can get a string of stops or shutouts and run off of their defense.
UCLA enters this one off of a frustrating home loss to Arizona. They gave up a season-high points. Bryce Alford, the senior, said after the game, quote, "I'm a little bit embarrassed, a little bit upset, and just ready to get back on the court." He said we had our best defensive practice of the season. Defense seems to be that one Achilles heel right now for this very high-scoring UCLA program.
Yeah, both these teams have made a point of emphasis of having a focus on resistance at the rim. Utah got 50 points against UCLA in the paint. UCLA was able to win that game, Rob. Tonight, they have to tighten up their defense, UCLA, if they expect to win. And most importantly, Rob, both these teams run off of their defense, where their athletes, their ability to finish, the electrifying athleticism. 12 NBA players potentially at the next level on display tonight.
Well, that's why there's so many NBA scouts, NBA general managers here. One of the guys they're here to watch, one of the main reasons we're here tonight, Lonzo Ball, the all-everything freshman, leads the Bruins in points, rebounds, steals, assists. This kid is something to watch, and watch him in the college game while you still can.
Well, his best game of the year arguably was at Kentucky. So the greater the moment, the brighter the lights, the bigger stage, Lonzo Ball is the player that steps up and meets that moment. Be interesting to see his first USC-UCLA rivalry game, only a freshman, but he plays like a veteran.
Introductions going on right behind us. First sellout of the season here at the Galen Center. It's been sold out for about 2 months, and USC off to their best start since 1992. They're 17-4, but 4-4 in conference play. As you mentioned, they won their out-of-conference schedule, and then things started to tighten up for them in Pac-12 play. Their points per game down just over 13 points a game. If they're to get the upset tonight at home, how do they go about it, Coach?
Well, I think it starts with their defense, a consistent theme that we're discussing here in the pregame, because USC, like UCLA, has the athletes, the skill to get up and down the floor. They prefer a track meet. Andy Enfield has brought that approach to the West Coast with success. And when you look at McLaughlin, as well as Stewart, this is a group, Metu, a big man that can run with the best of them as well. So this is a high-octane, buckle up. These teams like to get up and down the floor.
It's been a perilous 24 hours for top 10 teams. Villanova, Kansas, Kentucky, and Florida State fell tonight. Will UCLA see the same fate? You head on over to the booth. It's a 3-man booth, but first, let's send it over to Joe Davis and Jim Jackson.
All right, guys, and you said it, Rob, the 246th meeting between these programs, but Jim Jackson, the most meaningful regular season matchup that we've had between these programs in a long time. Steve Lavin's going to come over here and join us. So what I'm saying is whatever you're going to say here, make it important, because it's the last thing you're going to say for the next 2 hours.
A lot of great things in regards to what both teams have to do. UCLA tighten up on the defensive end. They can't allow dribble drive penetration, shots at the rim. For USC, it's very important that your offense be your best defense. If you take long shots, in particular from the corner, and you miss, you're not balanced. This UCLA team will exploit that, get out in transition, and make you pay.
93 points per game, one of the best in the country as we take a look at the starting 5 for each side. Ball, Hamilton, and Alford in the backcourt for UCLA, with Leaf and Welsh in the front court. Then a 4-guard lineup for USC, led by Elijah Stewart. Had 29 in their last game, and then Chimezie Metu inside has been one of the top players in the conference over the last month or so. So we are set to go, the 246 meeting between these programs, and UCLA starts with it, trying to get back on track after its second loss of the season on Saturday against Arizona. They try to go inside the Leaf. Stewart knocks it away, and Leaf touched it last. Hello again, Steve Lavin.
Great to be with you, fellas.
Hey, good to see you. Didn't I just go over there?
I'm the Swiss Army knife tonight. I'm the Costco, doing a little bit of everything. Delivering the coffee for you, shining your shoes.
You got some sugar? You'll share the sugar?
Gotta share the sugar.
And back-to-back turnovers to start this game between two teams that are really good on the offensive end. Nobody better nationally than this UCLA team. Thomas Welsh, a 7-footer, but he's smooth in that mid-range.
But this is where UCLA gets you. They push it up quick. The defense is not set. Bang, bang, pass. You have an open shot. USC has to do a better job of picking UCLA up a little bit earlier so they just can't flow into their offense.
Here's McLaughlin. And now Melton, the freshman, short with a 3. USC finally got it going on the offensive end of the floor in the win against Arizona State on Sunday. But they'd really been struggling in conference play prior to that. Leaf can't hit. Got his own miss and got fouled.
Well, as Jimmy mentioned, UCLA gets down the floor, gets organized as quickly as any team in the country.
There's Steve Alford, the head coach in his 4th season. 26th overall as a head coach. Back inside to Welsh. Got Metu off his feet and stuffed it down. And he's got the first 4 Bruins points.
Well, Welsh knows that Metu is going to try to block shots. So what do? You use your fundamentals, footwork, up and under. Metu has to be more patient inside and not go for those pump fakes.
Here's Elijah Stewart. Out of the corner, Jonah Matthews made his first career start on Sunday. Again, Charles Buggs out with a knee injury, so it's Matthews in there again. Back into Welsh against Metu. Turnaround hook shot, and the first 6 belong to Thomas Welsh.
Well, and I like the approach there by UCLA. Go through the hot hand, feed the big fella, especially after that 2-hand jam and the jumper from the elbow. So that's a little NBA flavor from Andy Enfield. USC clearly here too perimeter oriented. They've got to take a lesson out of UCLA's game plan here.
Alford can't hit his first shot. Metu boxes out Welsh, and the Trojans look to run. Up top for Metu, who was fouled by Hamilton.
Well, Coach, you talked about finding the hot hand, but how much credit do you give towards having a player like Lonzo Ball that understands it? As a coach, you don't have to tell him who to look for because instinctively he understands that.
Yeah, and what I've seen here early out of UCLA is they're attacking the paint off dribble penetration and post feeds. Other than that last Bryce Alford shot, everything's been an aggressive move toward the cup.
Metu's missed his first 2 jumpers. And so USC reverting back to its form from early on in the conference schedule. They were dead last in the Pac-12, shooting below 40% prior to the game on Sunday, when they finally got rhythm on the offensive end. It's all UCLA in the early going, and a timeout for Andy Enfield.
Well, high percentage looks for the Bruins here early, going down low to the big fellas. Timeout.
One of the top offensive teams in the country with the game's first 8 points. Number 2 in the country behind the Citadel, scoring the 93 points per game. Number 1 in the country in assists and field goal percentage. Elijah Stewart starts the scoring for the Trojans.
And the fact that Andy Enfield was able to call the timeout, get on his guys, put a play in, and then execute the play, it shows a little bit that maybe this USC team is a little bit more focused right now coming out of their timeout.
Hamilton, a contested shot off the side of the rim and tipped out of bounds by Ball.
Well, and Elijah Stewart shooting the ball really well, in particular career high last week. So wisely, his Trojan teammates look to get him the ball as well and get involved here early.
Been a breakout season for him, averaged 7.5 his first 2 years. He's averaging 14 this year. And back-to-back triples on this end. This one from Jonah Matthews.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes seeing the ball go through the rim and it kind of loosens up and takes away some of the pressure.
Thomas Welsh, guys, who averages 10 per game, already has 8.
Well, and all of his skills on display. We've seen the elbow jumper, a two-hand jam off his footwork down low. There again, comfortable with his catches or at peace with his game, Jimmy.
Well, and I love the fact that, again, you don't go away from it. You know what your bread and butter is. And sometimes, Coach, you know this with players and teams. When it's too easy, you tend to go away. But right now, UCLA is focusing on not shooting jump shots, but getting easy shots inside the paint.
Anthony Melton, one of the freshmen on this Trojans team, gets his first bucket of the game.
He's one of the prospects on NBA scouts and management's radar. Influences the game with his defense, the ability to put it on the deck and create. We saw the length there as well to finish.
He was scoreless in the win against Arizona State Sunday. He makes his first shot in this one. And Hamilton buries a 3. Had 9 threes in a game last week against Arizona State to match the score record. Melton got into a crowd, lost it to the floor, and a tie-up. Brings us to the under-16 timeout in the 246th meeting between USC and UCLA. Back to LA after this. Alford won his first 5 games in this series as head coach at UCLA, and that included a sweep of all 3 games 2 seasons ago, capped off in the Pac-12 tournament. But the Trojans returned the favor last year for the first time since 1942. USC beat UCLA 3 times in one season, including a blowout win in the Pac-12 tournament. Beat them by 24. It was USC's largest win over their crosstown rival in more than 70 years. In a series that's had more than 240 meetings, and a series that you have a history in, Coach Lavin.
Yeah, very fortunate. 24 times, 10 as an assistant coach and 14 as a head coach, and the energy is palpable, in particular when both teams are playing well, having strong seasons, as we have in this situation.
McLaughlin slices through, and the reverse wouldn't go before it was pinned up there by Rakocevic, and UCLA ball.
What kind of talk did you have with your team going in, especially the players, in regards to controlling the emotions, knowing that they competed against, you know, their opponents in high school, AAU, and all of that?
I would imagine very similar to what your coaches talked to your teams at Ohio State about when you were facing Michigan, to focus on execution, the task at hand. Good run out by the Trojans. Again, defense creating offense. That's the catalyst for both these teams. A string of stops or shutouts lead to the runouts because both the Trojans and UCLA prefer the track meet pace.
And it was Rakocevic that finished it off. Here's Welsh, who's hit his first 4 shots. Make it 5, and silky smooth with that turnaround hook.
But here's the thing, it's too easy for Welsh. Right now, he's able to catch the ball right at the block. And now the help can't get there. 2 dribbles, he's inside the lane. USC has to do a better job of pushing him and meeting him early to get him off the block.
And a moving screen on USC sends it the other way. They get Rakocevic for his first. Andy Enfield in his 4th season. Took him to the NCAA tournament last year for the first time since 2011, and then got him off to that 14-0 start this year. But the Trojans trying to get back on track now. 3-4 since beginning the season, 14-0. Holiday, Pac-12's leading scorer off of the bench, finds Hamilton. Wraparound pass goes out of bounds.
And that's an example of overpassing after the shot fake, the footwork, maneuvering to the rim. Hamilton's better off putting that ball up, A, because he may make it, B, he may get fouled. And if they miss, your bigs are in position to clean up the garbage and get a putback. And so multiple choice-wise, that's the one option you don't want to do. Pass in tight quarters, lead to a turnover.
Really selfless team. 22 assists per game for UCLA, leads the country. And it leads to the highest field goal percentage in the country as well. Elijah Stewart around it out from 3, and Welsh with the rebound. Here's Holiday for three. Book it.
And you know what? It doesn't seem like a lot, but just the quick play that you see back in transition to USC that Lonzo Ball was able to make, okay? Retreating defense, he attacks it real quick with one dribble. You have now a circulation back inside to get an open shot. And it's those little things like Holiday open that you just don't teach. It's instinctively, and that's how you get an open shot like that.
Lonzo Ball, one of the best at playing in pairs or in a tandem with a teammate. Because of those passing abilities, you see him look up the floor, advance through the air with a pass.
Now he's got it, takes it in the lane, kicks it out. Holiday with a flyby move. That's a long two that's short, and a stick back from Ball.
Wow, the quick jump, pogo stick, made it look easy too. That was a one-hand controlled tap jam.
Well, he can beat you in so many different ways. Whether it's rebounding the basketball, passing, intelligence. That's why he's made such a big impact.
It's a 7-0 run for UCLA after the Trojans had drawn to within 3. Quan Aaron fired one up there and couldn't hit. Now Ball gets rejected by Stewart.
Productive minutes early for Welsh, an upperclassman understanding what this rivalry is about. Played a very intelligent floor game from the post position. Defensively sealed off well for boards, and then offensively went to work in a variety of ways.
And how about UCLA doing a better job of keeping the ball in front? I figured that USC would take a page out of Arizona's book and attack off the dribble.
Leaf couldn't hit, tracked down in the corner by McLaughlin. Yeah, the biggest emphasis all week for UCLA has been the defensive end of the floor after they gave up a season-high 96 to Arizona. That three's there for DeAnthony Melton.
Melton doesn't play like a freshman. You see the turnover here by the Bruins. Melton has a poise and a confidence that really you don't traditionally see in a freshman. And Lonzo Ball for UCLA on the flip side has that unusual poise and purpose that they play the game with.
And how big was it that he got a layup at the beginning of the game coming off a scoreless night against Arizona State? Now they got his rhythm and juices for him.
5 for him. McLaughlin got Holiday to fly by and buried the jumper.
McLaughlin very crafty. I call him the David Copperfield of the Pac-12. Smooth, likes to use a change of pace or change of speed. Stewart with the steal.
And a great hustle on the other end from Hamilton to foul him and put him at the line for 2 shots.
We got our first takedown in this rivalry. Bragging rights, a backyard brawl here with USC and UCLA. You expect it to be a bit more physical. Nice transition. Stewart not going to get an easy one tonight. Make him earn it from the free throw line. Trojans, Bruins, Mr. Ball, timeout.
UCLA with a 20-15 lead on USC, under 12 here in the first half. Joe Davis, Steve Lavin, Jim Jackson, and a local product, and Thomas Welsh, 5 of 5 from the field in a game-high 10.
Well, it's the jump shot, but also the deep post position, and I know this kind of drives you crazy as a coach to allow the ball to be entered into the post without any resistance, but then having the post-up position inside. Now that was a little bit tougher, but once he gets his rhythm going as a player, it's tough to take that back. So let's see if USC, when Welsh is back in the game, works him up the lane a little bit earlier and makes it tougher for him to establish that deep position.
And no doubt Thomas Welsh, the thinking man's approach to post there, never in a rush with his back down bounce in terms of the up and under, shot fake and footwork into that jam. The pace that he plays with is one of his real strong suits. Players so often in a hurry, and that leads to poor decision making or poor shot selection. Not the case with Mr. Welsh.
After UCLA had opened its largest lead of the game at 10, 6 in a row for the Trojans. And an offensive rebound after Stewart missed the back end of the 2 shots.
You can go back to the timeout Coach Benfield took, settled the team in, and they were able now to make a run and bring this game back within 4.
That's who lost the handle, and it was tracked down by Holiday.
That's That's a perfect example, the flip side of being in a hurry on that turnover. Metu, another example by UCLA. It's that be quick but don't hurry. You want to be aggressive but still play with purpose. A fine line in particular where there's a game with so much at stake and the adrenaline that's running through these young fellas' bodies.
UCLA holds the all-time edge, but USC won all 3 contests last year, including a blowout win in the Pac-12 tournament. Metu from 19 bricks it. Stewart tries to get an offensive board, but lost it off his foot. Been a bounce back year for the Bruins. They went 15-17 last year, and really the butt kicking in the Pac-12 tournament was a fitting way for that year to end. But then finishing 10th in the Pac-12, just unheard of for UCLA. Holiday down the lane, scoops it off the glass.
A well-devised two-man game, and Holiday again maneuvering off the bounce, keeping his options open, and then saw the daylight at the rim. Why not?
Good catch, Rakocevic, and he's able to finish his second bucket.
And I like that play because Arizona gave UCLA trouble with the middle screen and roll. So right there, Melton Wright showing his playmaking ability, using the pick and roll up high to get an easy 2 inside.
A backdoor lob for Ball. It was fouled on his way up. We've already seen him thunder one down with one hand, and he had bad intentions on that one.
And Jimmy, building on your point, Rakocevic, the fact that USC looked down low, probe the paint, get the big fellas touches. You don't have to force, but just like UCLA having success early by going through Welsh, that then opens up the other aspects of your offensive attack. I'd like to see USC, if you're a Trojan fan, get more touches in the paint for the bigs because they're highly skilled, they're unselfish, and also attack off the bounce.
Ball makes both. Even with this 3-4 stretch for the Trojans, this is their best record at this point in the season, so through 21 games since 1992. So it's 17-4, looking for that signature win tonight.
And George Raveling was the head coach at that time for USC, finished second to UCLA, and went on to the NCAA tournament. That was Harold Miner.
Don't bring that name up, please. No, please don't bring that name up.
Melton's floater short, Metu shoves it back down.
But again, it's the dribble penetration, and that's what's going to open up the second shot opportunities. In particular, when UCLA goes to zone, the lack of communication brought open an offensive rebound.
Well, that penetration, Jimmy, triggers help defensively by UCLA's bigs. That creates second shot opportunities on the glass, which we saw by Metu.
Now Melton pushes for the Trojans. Stewart to the corner, McLaughlin. The baseline drive fouled by Gottleman.
Another aggressive push before UCLA sets their defense. A drive to the basket gives you a chance to pick up a foul, move closer to the bonus. Going back, Joe, to the difference between last year and this year, that's why Lonzo Ball has been a headline for the entirety of this college basketball season. One player that single-handedly transformed the team's prospects. Really, the culture of UCLA basketball has been changed by Lonzo Ball. His unselfishness, his competitiveness, his willingness to share the basketball has put an entire different trajectory, not only on this UCLA team, but their future, with his younger brothers in the mix, soon to be in Westwood.
USC has battled back to within one on Shaquan Aaron's first three. Holiday splits the D. On a Bogu in a crowd, slams it down.
UCLA right back. You push the tempo, you give up a shot, but again, deep penetration, you have to help. And then it's on Holiday to make the right play.
Well, that was a dime, too, a pocket pass in tight quarters.
Aaron tried it again, off the heel, ball on the push against McLaughlin. Finds Holiday on a baseline drive. Here's Alford rising, short. Aaron with a head of steam. The Louisville transfer will go to the line for two shots.
Aaron very aggressive, and again, USC with the Emerald City green light from Coach Enfield to push the ball, high octane, pedal to the metal. And you have to love this style of basketball. Both teams want to get up and down the floor. If you're a recruit in Southern California, Jimmy, watching this game, why would you want to play for USC or UCLA?
Well, you'll love it, and two, it may be something little, but Melton gave up the ball at the correct time. So Shaquan was able to catch the basketball and penetrate. A lot of times when you want to play fast, guys want to hold the basketball and try to make a play. That time by pushing it up ahead, it forced the UCLA defense back further into the lane, which now allowed Aaron to get inside and get to the free throw line.
Makes one of two, 2-point game. UCLA led this game 8-0. They had their largest lead at 20-10, but the Trojans back to within 2.
This zone defense is an active zone. See the travel there, the aggressiveness, the length, the foot speed of USC. They can extend it defensively out to the three-point line, or they can collapse like a Venus flytrap or an accordion into the lane, depending on personnel and matchups in terms of opponents and their strengths.
Jim, it took us almost 12 minutes to get our first lavism.
Well, I'm just waiting for the optics and the metrics.
I think we're doing a pretty good job of sharing the sugar so far.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
All right. Teamwork over here.
A lot of elbow room. Got to give each other space to go to work, right? A little isolation here, two-man game here, and then the three-man weave when we need it.
Metsu underneath. His second try goes, and this game is tied for the first time. Cuts to the rim, and a great find from Welsh.
Ball snuck in there that time. He kind of was going through and saw the opening, and how about the pass for Welsh for being able to target him right inside?
Well, and Welsh can stretch defenses, which takes Biggs away from the basket, opening that lane.
It's Aaron.
Cut into.
USC takes its first lead. Ball on the drive and a travel. Back and forth we go in a game that UCLA led by 10 in the early going. The Trojans have battled back and lead by 1. Got a Pac-12 doubleheader for you tomorrow on FS1. Oregon State and Colorado tip it off at 8:30 Eastern. And then a rematch of last year's conference tournament championship. Oregon with a program record 16-game winning streak, taking on a Utah team that's won 4 of its last 5. And 3 teams in the top 10 right now, and a chance for these squads to move up with the madness we're seeing around the country this week.
Yeah, we'll have an opportunity tomorrow morning. I catch a flight and we'll be in Salt Lake for that Utah-Oregon Ducks game. Great matchup there. The Utes improved dramatically when Cedric Bearfield, a transfer from SMU, stepped in, an early Christmas gift for Utah. And then David Collette, a big man, transfer from Utah State. So the big theme, the headline this year in college basketball, the impact of transfers, both graduate transfers and transfers who sat out a year that then joined forces.
Metsu slams it down off of the lob from McLaughlin. And then Ball got into the crowd and turned it over. Here's Aaron on the push, throws it up, and will shoot 2 on a foul on all 3.
And you notice the energy is different, in particular on the defensive end for USC. They're active, they're communicating. Now on the offensive end, the bodies are fluid and they're working together. They're making the plays. They're not settling for jump shots. And as a result, this USC team has really gained and taken the momentum away from UCLA.
Well, you're right. It's clear aggressiveness, not only on defense, which has got USC out in transition for opportunities, but even on the half court, USC's been more aggressive in terms of probing or investigating the lanes to the rim. And also they found some opportunities at point-blank range, those 0-footers for Metsu.
And that is another Bruin turnover. They've already got 8 of them tonight. Melton, great vision. Matthews a three. And a foul on the rebound goes on USC.
But the problem with the zone defense, UCLA is trying to float passes, Joe, above and not putting any zip on it. And when you do that, this long, athletic USC team is going to get deflections. Deflections turn into fast breaks into easy baskets. So UCLA has to do a better job of putting a little bit more zip, coach, on the pass.
Well, in particular, when you look at this USC team, they're quicker man for man than UCLA. And that may surprise some people throughout the country if you don't follow USC closely. They have loaded up with NBA prospects over the past couple years. Andy Enfield and his staff, Jason Hart, as well as Tony Bland, excellent recruiters, and we're seeing that on display.
They've had to overcome some unexpected departures, a couple of early departures to the NBA, a couple of transfers. Isaac Hamilton headed halfway down and out. Vukocevic hit the rebound. We saw one of those transfers last night, and Caden Reinhardt helped Marquette to a big win against Villanova.
How big was he last night? Stepped up big time. And I love the fact that at the end of that game, he didn't settle for a jump shot. He knew how the post player was playing him. He took it to the basket and got fouled.
That's an important stretch with ball out of the game, as UCLA tries to give them a blow. Whether UCLA conducted without ball.
What a game Shaquan Aaron's putting together with a team-high 12. And a timeout for UCLA.
Here comes Mr. Ball.
10-0 run for the Trojans. It's a 26-8 run since UCLA had opened up its largest lead of the game. And this guy here, Shaquan Aaron's been a big part of that. All 12 of his points coming over the last 4 minutes.
You know, UCLA's freshmen deservedly have received a lot of hype, but don't sleep on USC's freshmen. Vukocevic, Matthews, Melton, those three very impressive.
Here's McLaughlin, 2-on-1. Melton got rejected at the rim, but fouled.
And he was going to get it. I mean, showing the athleticism and the, you know, again, the defense is going to dictate how USC is able to get out and play in transition. But I love the unselfish play. You give the basketball up, you work on this in practice, and you get it right back with an opportunity for a shot or get to the free throw line.
Yeah, so often we see give and goes in the half court, but that's give and go in transition basketball. Advance it through the air, the pass faster than the bounce, and you'll be rewarded by getting it back with the mathematics of the numbers in your favor.
There we go. Mathematics, numbers.
3-on-2, 2-on-1.
I've been waiting for that, Joe.
Speaking of math, that's the second foul on Holiday. Holiday, Hamilton, and Goleman, all with 2 for the Bruins.
Again, this is not a hands-up Harry 2-3 passive zone. Watch how quick, active feet tied together. The length of UCLA is troubling UCLA.
Holiday. And Welsh went up for it. A joust and a tie-up. They'll send it to USC.
In-game adjustments. What the zone has also done is neutralize the effectiveness of getting the ball to Welsh down low. Now, within that zone structure, he's not able to get that post-up position that we saw early in the game.
And building on that, Jimmy, also within a zone, you can shade almost like 8 in the box towards Ball to level off his ability to get in the lanes.
McLaughlin around a Vukocevic screen. Short with a jumper. And the rebound tracked down by Alford. Numbers for UCLA. Here's Holiday to the 10 and a tough finish through contact. First points for the Bruins in more than 3 minutes.
Wise maneuvering there by Holiday. Put the shoulder into the sternum of the defender.
McLaughlin left alone, and he makes UCLA pay with a triple.
I love love the calmness in which McLaughlin is playing with. He's a leader on the floor. He's getting guys in position to be successful, making the right plays. And then if you step up underneath the screen, Coach, he's able to bury and knock down a three.
He glides out there, very smooth operator.
Little side A, huh?
Exactly.
Little side A, huh?
You pick right up on it.
Holiday fouled and a chance at a three-point play. They got Jonah Matthews for the Trojans. 3:47 left to go here in the first half. It has been entertaining as advertised, and the Trojans by 8.
Welcome back to Los Angeles. UCLA shot out to an 8-0 lead, but they now trail the Trojans by 8. Coming up at halftime, Steve Lavin will join me. We're going to break down how this upset has been brewing through the first half, plus Markelle Fultz and Washington looking to take care of Arizona State. And Joe, boy, it's been a rough 24 hours for teams in the top 10, hasn't it?
Sure has. Last night, 3 of the top 5 teams in the country fell. We saw another one fall tonight, Florida State, in blowout fashion by 20 against Georgia Tech. And then you feel for what Creighton has gone through recently, losing Mo Watson, their point guard, and then losing back-to-back games.
The question is it better for college to have the parity we're seeing now with teams that are good but not great, or where you have top-of-the-line 2 or 3 teams that are just dominant? You love to see them play, but you don't like them. Where's the balance in that, what we're seeing right now with teams being knocked off, on a daily basis?
In addition to the parity, what you also have as you head towards February is teams know one another. They've studied tendencies, like the second half of baseball for hitters and pitchers. So the margin for error becomes razor thin in conference play.
Taquan Aaron, short this time. Has 12 to lead the Trojans here in the first half. Holiday lobbing for Welsh. Let it knocked away by Stewart.
One of the few mistakes Welsh has made, trying to bring the ball down instead of keeping it chest or higher with the elbows out under the chin and on the chest.
Although for his team, that's kind of a theme here in this half. 11 UCLA turnovers. They average 12 per game.
Until you face USC, it's hard to simulate their speed and quickness.
Here's Welsh rejecting McLaughlin. Back the other way comes Holiday. The trailer is Alford, and he passed up a shot. And a foul on the drive. That's
Good
only
movement.
number 6 on the Trojans left.
Good movement without the ball by Lonzo Ball. And Jimmy, you mentioned it earlier, all the subtle elements that Lonzo Ball brings to the court, and one of them is what he does without the ball, both offensively and defensively. His help on defense, anticipating, getting into passing lanes, and offensively, he's a moving target.
Here's Ball, fired a fastball that was tipped around. McLaughlin's got it with Melton ahead of the pass.
Can I get a There we go. There we go.
Leaf the extra pass, and Welsh is fouled by Rakocevic, his 3rd.
Well, that time against the zone, the quick decision-making to pass the ball from east to west, opened up a little hole and gap, the entry pass, bounce pass inside. And that's how you got to attack the zone. When you have an active zone, quicker players, if you hold the basketball, Coach, you're going to play right into the hands of what USC wants you to do.
You want to get it in that high post area where you can then turn, maybe pocket pass along the baseline of the short corner. You've got the defense.
By the way, guys, I'm not going to say anything until after Thomas Welsh shoots these 2 free throws, but you know he's pretty darn good here.
You don't want to jinx him now.
What was the insinuation right now? You insinuated
Until
that,
I tell you exactly
that he hasn't
how good.
missed or something. That's what you're doing. See,
oh, my goodness.
See, why did you even bring it up? You didn't have to bring it up.
No, but I did.
No, you
happened.
didn't. No, you didn't have to.
I didn't have to, but I did bring it up.
Well, you see what happened.
So he'd made 29 in a row to start the season before that miss.
Yeah, well, Thanks to you.
McLaughlin had it knocked out of bounds. He still set the record, though. Program record to start a season, 29 consecutive makes.
Coach Alford's going to want to have a conversation with you post-game.
I can understand it if I had told you he had made 29 in a row, but I just told you he was good. McLaughlin short with a 3. Welsh clears it. Holiday with a tough catch in traffic and another Bruin turnover. As sloppy as we've seen UCLA all season on the offensive end. Aaron has room baseline, and he'll shoot 2.
Well, not only are they empty possessions, Joe, but they're live ball turnovers. So UCLA is not getting a shot on the rim, but they're also creating offense for the Trojans. And before UCLA can get back and set their defense, USC is either getting high percentage looks or getting themselves to the foul line as we see Aaron step to the charity stripe.
And Coach, I said this at the beginning of the game. For USC, their best defense is going to be their offense, what kind of shots they take. They're doing an excellent job of being in a position to take high-quality shots, which then sets their defense, not allowing UCLA to get out in transition and have their numbers that they're accustomed to getting.
Well, when the ball goes through the net, you're able to get back, set up this zone defense. And UCLA's forced to play uphill.
And Welsh, everything going in for the big man tonight as he knocks down the free throw line jumper and has hit all 6.
And a soft touch, he gets that shooter's touch.
1 minute left in this opening half. UCLA owned the opening minutes, but it's been all USC since. That's a corner 3 from Harrison Henderson. The seldom used big man getting involved. And who isn't tonight for the Trojans? Acrobatic shot, no. Falls into the hands of Leaf. Leaf over the top, gets it to roll home.
When Leaf and Welsh get touches, good things happen for UCLA.
Final seconds of this opening half with the shot clock turned off. It's McLaughlin against Holiday on the screen from Henderson. Pulls up from 18. Now Stewart launches and hits. That's how this first half comes to a close with a 50 on the board for USC. The Trojans try to upset the number 8 team in the country. Halftime at the Galen Center. Rob Stone and Steve Lavin have you on the other side of this break. Back here in Los Angeles with this 3 from Elijah Stewart gave the Trojans their largest lead of the game at 12 to bring us here to the second half. We welcome you back courtside. Busiest man in sports TV, Steve Lavin. A little bit less busy, Jim Jackson. Your thoughts on that first half? I think it's as sloppy as we've seen UCLA on the offensive end all year.
Well, USC is feeding off this crowd, a great home court advantage here at the Galen Center, and the Trojans are feeding off their defense, forcing UCLA into turnovers and getting them out in transition for high percentage looks. Once you have the swag and confidence, now the 3-ball starts going as well.
And give Andy Enfield a lot of credit. Switching to the zone defense took the effectiveness of Welsh out of it, but also it forced UCLA to slow down. They want to play fast. Hence is why they have a high turnover rate versus the zone. Have to slow down, get the shots you want. But again, excellent decision by USC to go zone.
To your point, guys, UCLA's season average in turnovers for the game is 12. They had 13 during that first half, leading to 14 Trojan points. USC off to its best start through 21 games since 1992. The Bruins, meanwhile, trying to bounce back from their second loss of the season on Saturday against Arizona.
There's another example, Lonzo Ball, what he does when he's moving without the basketball in his hands. We know he's special off the bounce in terms of creating, hitting some big shots this year from long distance, but there he gets the offensive rebound. And now steps to the foul line.
Ball has 7 now, but he's also turned it over 5 times. 5 of those 13 Bruin turnovers. for the freshman from Chino Hills. Makes one of two. And here comes Melton. The Trojans' first possession of the second half. 8 players scored during the first half for USC as they hit 50 over the first 20 minutes. So more problems for the Bruins on this end of the floor. Good help defense from Leaf. Now Leaf on the other end. They need to get him going. He's only got 6 with that tip in.
Well, again, now you see the strength of UCLA to get out in transition. You don't have the rebounders. Metu inside, attempts to block a shot, but the size of UCLA again, able to get inside and get an offensive rebound.
Here's Stewart. His third triple. And the Trojans as a team have hit 10 already left.
Well, once you've seen the ball go through the net, splash, 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 the target you're shooting at gets bigger. The circumference of that rim in your mind is like the Pacific Ocean. You can drop kick it in there.
Ball penetrating the zone and gets his shot rejected by Metu, but he was bumped first. That's the second foul on Jonah Matthews.
Yeah, Metu sent a little message right there. The foul was already called, the shot went up. Metu came across and with a little more authority on that shot block to say, listen, it's going to be a long second half for you.
He's in the act of shooting, so ball to the line for 2. And of course, nothing a student section loves more than the visiting team's best player missing at the line. Matthews a quick 3 and a foul on Stewart.
Not to be Captain Obvious here, but if you're UCLA, what's clear is when Welsh and Leaf get touches, good things happen. It doesn't mean they have to shoot the ball every time, but by going to those bigs, it forces teams to collapse. You get higher percentage looks and a chance to get fouled.
Bryce Alford misfires from 3, and the leading scorer for the Bruins still looking for his first point of the game. You mentioned Leaf came in as the second leading scorer. He only has 6. Inside they go Metu against Welsh. Now Melton working on Alford. Back to Metu, puts it on the deck. In the corner, hits Stewart. Again.
Playmaking, the quickness that time of Metu, yes, got cut off by the baseline, but Stewart did an excellent job of locating right in the sight line to get an open shot and nailed it in the corner.
Hamilton finds Leaf. His second bucket of the second half, and that's what they need to do, huh, Coach?
You know what, you might want to go to Leaf and Welsh, high percentage finishers, and you know what? You'll end up with better shots from the perimeter if you let those bigs touch.
Leaf rejects Stewart, and then a foul, and if they got Stewart, that's his second, and they did.
Well, you have to figure out a way. With Leaf, a lot of times they love to allow him to touch it at the free throw line to now make moves, but with the zone, you have to figure out ways to get him the basketball in space. Now he can either take the shot, make a play inside, or even kick it out for an open three.
Hamilton center of the zone. Back-to-back buckets for the Bruins. They're back within 11.
Well, that's a good possession because it was a catch in the paint. There's movement without the ball, and you're getting into the gut, the teeth of that USC zone defense. UCLA has to be careful not to overhelp in their defense, opening those three-point shots.
Melton hung up there forever, but missed time to jump on a high-arcing rebound. Ball spinning, kicking, turning it over, his 6th. And now he fouls Melton, compounding the issue. It's the second foul on Ball.
Melton again defensively, like a DB reading a quarterback's eyes. We see the foul there, a little frustration on Lonzo Ball, but Melton influencing the game even when he doesn't score because of his defense and his intelligence, and he plays the game with purpose, and that really elevates this USC team's performance.
Andy Enfield told us before the game today that scoring Oh my goodness! Metu!
Speaking of scoring, but again, Jordan McLaughlin, the point guard, setting it up for Metu to get the dunk.
And there is Melton with the defense leading to the turnover.
Well, what I love about this play is the pick and roll. He allows the clearance, 2 dribbles, gets inside, and then they're not. But where's the help defense from UCLA on the weak side? Kind of staying married to the ball handler instead of communicating, coach, on the back line.
And also Metu, how about the footwork after he screens? He was like someone running the 40-yard dash in terms of the foot race to the rim. And that's again where I think USC's foot speed, man for man, at a much quicker pace than UCLA. And at both ends of the floor, we're seeing those foot races pay dividends for USC.
That is the 3rd foul on Isaac Hamilton, and Steve Alford keeps him in the game early on here in the second half, defending Melton. Now Stewart against Leaf. McLaughlin got room.
Now keep in mind, Andy Enfield had a blueprint when he came to USC. He had built the Florida Gulf program, took them to a Sweet 16.
Metu closed down, reject Welsh's shot. Last touch by the Bruins. All Trojans up by 13. Trying to pull the upset. And Chimezie Metu making a statement with this one-handed slam. The top 2 women bantamweight contenders in the world enter the octagon, knowing that if they win this fight, a title shot is next. Shevchenko against Pena. Only one will survive to challenge the champion. Be sure to watch UFC Fight Night Saturday at 8 Eastern on Fox. 58-45. The Trojans in front of the Bruins after the slow start. It has been all USC.
Well, the Trojans executing well in the 2-man game, the tandems, and here we see McLaughlin come off Metu, sets that screen, ball tries to fight over. Watch how quickly Metu takes off, gets up in the air, catches the pass with one hand, and jams it home like a Vida Blue or a Tom Seaver, Dwight Gooden velocity fastball.
Vida Blue? Damn. But if I'm the defense for UCLA and I'm guarding that, and I know USC has knocked down some 3-point shots, but Bryce Alford on the baseline has to smell out that play, see it coming and get there a little bit sooner. That time he hesitated. As a result, Metu, nice little poster inside.
And UCLA has done nothing to get rid of the concerns that were created Saturday on the defensive end. They gave up 96 against Arizona. An offensive outburst from the Trojans in this one. Metu the extra pass. Stewart can't hit this time, but an offensive rebound.
And there's that quickness of Matthews, another freshman, very active, influences the game both offensively and defensively with his tenacity, his length, and foot speed.
And a good read that time from Alford. Here's Ball finding Hamilton, had a steam and a reverse off the glass.
And that's when UCLA is at their best. Defense to offense, highly athletic, quick plays. Let's see if UCLA can duplicate that same effort on the defensive end and get another stop.
And they can score in bunches quickly. Last week against Arizona State, they had 21 points at the first media timeout. Metu the touch pass. McLaughlin in the angle drive. Now Stewart baseline. And lost the handle out of bounds.
It's interesting, Jimmy. You mentioned UCLA at their best in transition, getting points off of turnovers, but really USC is the same. They're at their best in transition. These two teams mirror one another, and it's not like UCLA, other than the turnovers, is having a bad night. They're shooting over 50%. More of a credit to USC from long range, torching nets.
Here's Leaf through contact, unable to hit. Hamilton followed the miss and banked it in. His second bucket in a row. And guys, it's back to single digits just like that.
Well, the Leaf one-on-one opportunity didn't make the shot, but because he got so close to the rim and deep penetration, it opened up an offensive rebound. So a little formula to see if they can go back to Leaf again to see if they can get that same kind of matchup.
Stewart. And a chance for UCLA to run. Ball trying to zip it inside, but turn it over. Right back to Alford. The Bruins try to counter. Bryce Alford in and out twice. Metu clears it. And Alford, UCLA's leading scorer on the year, still scoreless tonight. Matthews, no. Leaf the rebound.
Again, I go back to, if you're a recruit, you would not want to be in this game tonight, but play at one of these two schools. If you're somewhere around the country watching basketball and you see this track meet, the green light that both these coaches give to their players is unusual, unique.
Well, you saw when infield came from Florida Gulf Coast, the excitement that he was going to bring, getting up and down the court, alley-oops. But it also is a measured discipline as well, because it's not like USC is taking uncharacteristic shots, quick shots, forced shots. They're playing fast, but they're playing smart.
It's an excellent point. There's purpose within this pace. They play at a relentless pace, but it's a purposeful pace, and they wear opponents down in a cumulative way over the course of the game.
Tie up, and it stays on this end of the floor. Ball to trigger the inbound to Holiday. At 10 during the first half, scoreless here in the second. Ball from back in Westwood, bricked it. McLaughlin with a pass fake, cut inside, and then stymied at the rim was Aaron. Tipped up and in somehow.
The ping pong action, coach.
Man, he's been using that length, the wingspan or the branches.
He's got 16 now. That's 3 short of a career high. Hamilton way outside, no. And a foul on TJ Leaf.
See, we're seeing a number of possessions where Leaf and Welsh don't get touches. Again, they don't have to shoot the ball, but give them a touch, and you may get a high percentage look, you may draw a foul, or you force SC to collapse, and then you kick it out, and that same three-point shot you get later in the clock, and maybe a better, cleaner look at the rim, not contested.
Coach, what would you tell your players? Because like I said earlier, a lot of times when it's too easy early, you kind of go away from it.
Well, I think it's about getting a piece of the paint on a post feed or dribble penetration.
Lonzo Ball clears the miss up ahead. Hamilton, and he banks it in. Hamilton having a nice stretch to help the Bruins back in it.
And one thing about Lonzo Ball, I had the pleasure of playing with Jason Kidd. He has 7 turnovers, but because of how he plays, he's going to have nights like that because he's going to take chances. But then you're going to see him make a play like that he makes look so simple, okay, because he understands how to lead his man to the basket. And you're going to have to deal with some of those turnovers because of the way he plays.
Well, that's Coach Alford showing trust.
Shot clock down to 5. It's McLaughlin short with a 3. Rakocevic, the offensive rebound. Aaron is open. And a foul on the rebound goes on Ball. That is number 3 on Lonzo Ball here in the 246th meeting between USC and UCLA. Back after this. Years since Bryce Alford has held scoreless in a game, and here with 11:51 left to go, he is still searching for his first points. And up until a moment ago, when Isaac Hamilton ripped off 8 in a row, their 3 leading scorers on the season almost non-existent.
Well, USC is doing an excellent job of, one, not allowing Bryce Alford to get into rhythm, get open jump shots. They're there on the catch. They're taking away easy opportunities. Now, to his credit, he's not trying to force some things. Now, you know, Coach, that Bryce Alford may not have scored yet. And that's not going to prevent him from being aggressive and taking shots.
No doubt, he's the quick trigger, like the old Wild Wild West. He's going to keep launching. Quick draw from distance. And I don't mind Alford being aggressive, or any of the UCLA players in the perimeter, as long as they get a touch in the paint first.
And a foul as Rakocevic went over the top to try and tip that thing in. That is his 4th.
UCLA with plenty of time to get back into this game. with their ability to shoot from long distance and the number of weapons at Coach Alford's disposal. They can take advantage of matchups, zone or man. You can look to play through personnel that'll help you come back in this game.
And let's remember, just 3 days ago in this building, USC led Arizona State by 14 with 3 minutes left and barely hung on by 3. Alford trying to get loose. Inside of 10 to shoot. It's ball hitting a cutting Hamilton with an extra pass for Welch. Now Alford gets his first points of the game.
But the patience that time, excellent recovery by USC, recovering back when they got beat off the dribble. But once again, when UCLA is patient, they're going to get high-quality shots. And that time, Alford able to square his shoulders up. 3-ball corner pocket.
One of the top 3-point shooting teams in the country. Only their 3rd make from out there tonight. Now Metu turns it over. And you got to figure, when you're only 3 days removed from, like we talked about, blowing a 14-point lead, you get in this stage of the game, that starts creeping into the front of your mind again.
And momentum is what creates runs. USC had one early, and now UCLA on a run of their own. Be interesting to see if Andy Enfield gets a timeout here.
And he does. But patience again on offense by UCLA. Multiple passes, the ball moves around the court, and then you attack off the dribble.
It's a 7-0 run after this Hamilton runner. He's got double figures in the second half alone, and UCLA still in. UCLA's battled back into this one with a 7-0 run and a 4-point game past the halfway mark of the second half. Anytime you get these two together, you get some stars out. Our very young Chris Carter.
The Ohio State University.
Gary Payton doesn't look too happy about this.
The glove.
John Robinson's here. Saw Clay Helton earlier as well. So some football pieces in the building tonight as well. There's another one. Matt Leinart. And Jacob Ullman. One of our bosses at Fox Sports.
Get out of there, Jacob. Get out of there. Get out of the
picture. He's a USC grad. Just ask his coach and shirt.
That's the Trojan Brain Trust there.
Yeah.
Comparing notes on Andy Enfield's approach tonight against UCLA.
A 4-point game. 9.5 to go. You had to get that in there.
Did you catch that?
I didn't go 8 clap on you.
I think you've done a pretty good job of playing it right down the middle.
I've really tried to bring that Edward R. Murrow objective news reporting. No fake news on this broadcast.
No. The 3 to shoot in the corner. Aaron throws it off a UCLA player. We'll have 1 second, guys.
What about Walter Cronkite?
Cronkite's another one.
Good one, right? No fake news there, right?
No.
No doubt. Straight meat and potatoes. But eloquent.
They lob it to the rim, and Metu has it. Well, couldn't finish. I'm not sure why they would have called a shot clock violation, because the ball hit the rim, and the official tells us it's because it's not a shot. It has to be a shot that hits the rim.
I like the fact the officials are communicating well. Those 3 on the floor and the 3 of us here courtside, always important.
3-man weed, sharing the sugar, right?
Well, let me ask you a question. If you throw it up and you make it, it counts as a shot, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it seems like, yeah, I'm with you.
I'm just a little confused on that one right there.
Is it the intent?
Here's Aaron stepping into the 3-ball. National career high with 19.
And that's a big sequence. UCLA had an opportunity to cut it to 4.
Ball, a step back triple to respond.
What a punch, counter punch. Right back at you.
Ball, the 4th Bruin into double figures. Now McLaughlin lost the handle. And the bodies go crashing to the floor. The tie-up. We'll stay on this end.
I'm surprised that wasn't a travel. When you roll over with the ball.
Before the jump ball, before the UCLA player was able to get on top. But 2 possessions here where we see more activity on the defensive end, poking the ball away. by UCLA.
Well, there's been a dramatic shift in momentum. Big possession here for the Trojans.
They work the baselines. That two went over the back and no call. Stewart gambled. So Paul has numbers for UCLA, and Alford off the back rail with an open three. A shot that he normally hits.
Again, both these teams are like gunslingers. Lock, load, and launch from long distance. In a scattered court, that's one maybe you put on the deck because you have the advantage of the numbers.
Right. Yeah, one more, get it closer to the basket.
It's McLaughlin knocking down the three ball.
Twice, fellas, UCLA had a chance to cut it to 2, and USC comes down, hits a 3, and it goes to 7. Big swings.
They've hit 13 threes tonight. Hamilton curling inside. It's ball out of the corner. Too strong this time. USC's ability to shoot it on this end and cause turnovers on the other end, leading to this 7-point lead with 7 left. McLaughlin now drives, got it knocked away but was fouled. Got a heck of a finish coming from the Galen Center. USC and UCLA. Back in a moment. On FS1, round 4, the Monster Energy Supercross season, dropping the gates in Glendale. Fresh off his first victory of the season, Ryan Dungey tries to continue his dominance there. Don't miss Monster Energy Supercross, Saturday at 9 Eastern on FS1. Joe Davis, Steve Lavin, Jim Jackson, and Rob Stone with us tonight as well. 246 meetings between these LA rivals. An 8th-ranked UCLA is battled back into this game after trailing by as many as 15 here in the second half.
Joe, in between the break, Coach and I were talking. He made a great point that a couple times UCLA had a chance to really cut into this lead. He settled for a three-point shot instead of in transition, forcing the defense to have to guard you and not bailing them out by taking the three-point shot.
Yeah, it's not the three in and of itself, it's the timing.
Right.
Of the three-point shots. I mean, UCLA is shooting 51% from the field, USC shooting 41%, so UCLA actually more proficient in terms of their field goal percentage, but the 16 turnovers have been costly.
Leaf got his hand on this one, and the loose ball last touched by UCLA. They'll have 5 seconds to shoot when they inbound.
USC may have caught a break on this call. Looks like it's clearly off Elijah Stewart.
Always tough at this angle sometimes to get the ball inbounds in the deep corner, but UCLA can't allow a pass where somebody's going directly to the basket off a curl.
Stewart catch and shoot. Tipped out. Fresh possession USC. With 6.5 to go. Now it's Aaron hopping into the lane. Melton on the baseline in a crowd, digs it back out. McLaughlin turned it over. Hamilton ahead to Holiday. Aaron Holiday, Euro step and one! And a chance at a three-point play for Holiday. He had 10 during the first half, but that's his first bucket since the break.
Watch the pace, looks at his options, considered making a pass, but then takes the big right to the rim. You see the emotion after the bucket, a chance for an old-fashioned three-point play as Holiday steps to the charity stripe.
And he had to put the defender in a tough situation. He saw Leaf trailing in the middle, so the defender had to make a decision. Do I stop ball? Do I hedge towards Leaf? And Holiday, even if he misses the shot, he knows Leaf is trailing right behind for potential offensive rebound.
This has been some game. Looked like UCLA might run away with it, with an 8-0 start. But then USC took control. UCLA's hung around. Melton forces up a jumper, and Stewart's there to slam it back in. Now Ball kicks it outside. Holiday drives by Melton and gets rejected by Metu. Elijah Stewart's known as more of a shooter, guys.
Yeah, but somebody put the trampoline out when we didn't see it, because right there, springboard, no one blocking him out, and Elijah just flying through the air with the greatest of ease.
That's how they do it at Westchester High School here in Los Angeles. Ed Azam, the coach of the basketball powerhouse. That's where Trevor Ariza went to school, Grandpa Lee, Hassan Adams.
Metz's presence altered the shot of Holiday.
When you recruit in Southern California, fellas, you make sure you make a lot of stops at Westchester.
Two and the foul! USC putting together a highlight show.
You know, the beauty about this game is that a lot of questions were asked about how good really is this USC team, because probably back on the East Coast, whatever, a lot of people couldn't see how athletic this USC team is. And this is a statement game because 13-0, they really didn't beat a top 25 team. When they got into conference play, you lose to Utah, you lose to Oregon. Now you got a chance to show a lot of people outside of the West Coast how good of a team you really are.
Well, and USC improved from those losses because they inform how you move forward, what you emphasize in practice.
Lonzo Ball, cold-blooded, buries a three from 25 feet.
Might not be pretty, but when he knocks it in, it's very effective.
Well, he's a crunch time performer too. Like the greater the moment, the bright lights, the big stage, whether it's at Kentucky or here at USC.
In and out from Stewart. Ball again. Brick this one. Perhaps a little bit overzealous.
Yeah.
6-point game with 4.5.
The guy that shoots that is up north a little bit in the Oakland area, I think it is. A guy named Steph Curry. That's his shot right there. Let him do that.
Melton got it. The 14th made three tonight for USC, matching a season high. And a timeout for UCLA. Plenty to be proud about tonight if you're a USC fan watching the effort that the Trojans have put out there to lead by 9, and they've done it in a loud fashion.
Well, the USC fans are accustomed to seeing the dunks. Right now, coming into this game, they led their opposition 79-30 in regards to dunks. So this is a highly athletic team. Coach, we talked about it. It's not just coming from one person. You saw Elijah Stewart kind of fly in there and said, let me get a little bit of this action.
And what a great recruiting statistic. If you're out around the country and talking about charting dunks and where you are in the country nationally, and then obviously they've got the green light to shoot from long distance, and the ability to make threes opens up those lanes or seams to do chin-ups on the rim.
Remember Andy Enfield's last stop, Florida Gulf Coast, they were known as Dunk City.
So this is the downtown Los Angeles Dunk City version that Andy Enfield brought to Southern California.
Inside a 10 to shoot. Hamilton a clean look. A little bit too strong. You get the feeling though that UCLA still has a run left against the USC team that blew a 14-point lead in the final 3 minutes Sunday before holding on against Arizona State.
And you see the results of Enfield, Coach Enfield getting his recruiting class in. And Coach, particularly how long does it take to kind of get your feet wet and get the class that you need, the players you need?
Well, he's ahead of schedule. Last year in the NCAA tournament, this year a team that will have an opportunity to run deep in the NCAA tournament if they continue to improve their defense.
Holiday for three. Off the heel. Welsh tips it out, and Ball tracks it down.
Well, what I love about this USC lineup on the floor, fellas, is it's a two-way lineup. Offensively and defensively, they're a handful.
Holiday on a third try for UCLA. An 0 of 3 on that trip, and it remains a 9-point game.
And the Trojan faithful showing their appreciation.
Under 10 to shoot. It's McLaughlin. Trying to find room, takes it against Welsh and gets blocked. It'll stay here with 3 seconds to shoot. TJ Leaf comes back in. He's been non-existent for UCLA here in the second half as Welsh takes a seat.
This is a big defensive possession here on this 3 seconds to go out of bounds along the baseline. Still in single digits. Enough time here. 9-point deficit.
Metu off the front of the rim, but got his own miss, and a fresh 30 for the Trojans. USC playing a ranked UCLA team for the first time since 2009. Trying to pull the upset to move to 18-4. Melton behind the back. Now penetrates. Got cut off and kicked. It's Aaron. Short. Rebound Alford with 1:55. Ball zips it inside. Holiday nearly turned it over and did. It's been the story tonight for the Bruins. Metu's fouled and will shoot a pair with 1:27.
Well, the discipline. Holiday at that point, make the simple pass. Either you shoot it or you have an opportunity to dump it down inside and get a basket, but yet you want to do a behind-the-back pass in close quarters in a situation where you need to score. That lack of discipline comes back to haunt you. You know, especially in late game situations.
Yeah, very poor judgment, because if you do score or get to the foul line and then score, you can set your defense.
Exactly.
The theme of the night, the Achilles heel for UCLA, has been the turnovers. I mean, if you look at their numbers, they've shot the ball well, but those turnovers were so costly, and then their three-point defense hurt them as well when USC established that lead.
Hamilton got fouled and will shoot 2. But USC's lead is now 11.
And how about one of the points of emphasis for USC coming in was we need to battle on the glass. And that means guards included. And 36-35, UCLA by 1. So defensively, you're doing well. You're knocking down shots, you're valuing the basketball, but you're taking care of keeping UCLA out of transition, but also handling your business and staying closely connected by rebounds.
Hamilton makes both and back to single digits. A timeout taken by Steve Alford. And a 9-point game with 1:22.
This will appear as an upset, but I've had USC 12 times over the past 2 seasons. And if you watch their games and the progression or development of this program, to me, it's not an upset. I know it is, but again, going back to foot speed and skill, the lineups that USC have had out there have been quicker and more effective than UCLA's lineups.
Don't let them turn it off yet. I mean, 1:22, there have been crazier things that have happened.
Absolutely. I've been in 24 of these games as an assistant and a head coach, so I understand how quickly a lead can evaporate. And it's not too late for UCLA, but if they continue to not make good judgments and have empty possessions, USC is going to salt this victory away.
And Joe, you mentioned this, the Arizona State game, late down the stretch. It was the costly turnovers, also the missed free throws that allowed Arizona State to hang around and almost sneak out of here with the victory.
Presses on for UCLA, and a foul of Shaquan Aaron puts a 73% foul shooter up there for a 1-and-1. What a job by USC on the defensive end tonight. UCLA averaging 93 per game. Their previous season low, 74 against Texas A&M.
Well, what's interesting is, as a coach, the first thing I looked at was field goal percentage defense. And UCLA is shooting over 50%. And yet, because of UCLA's turnovers, which is tied to USC's active zone defense, they've been able to separate, combined with the three-point shooting.
17 UCLA turnovers, 14 made threes for the Trojans. Holiday's runners there. So it's a 9-point deficit with 1:10 and counting. Stewart to trigger the inbound, but first he calls a timeout. USC has one left.
Well, now UCLA has to try and get 5-second count, go for one trap. If you're not able to get a steal, you have to foul, stop the clock, and hope USC starts missing free throws and extend this game, create more possessions.
And what you want to do is funnel USC to catch the ball in the deep corner and then immediately get the trap on. Long hands, force the ball handler to turn his back, and maybe you can get a 5-second call. What you want to do if you're UCLA is extend the game. Put the pressure on USC, one, to get the ball inbound, two, to kind of handle the basketball, and then you get fouled, three, get to the free throw line, and knock down your shot.
Jimmy, would you agree, and you played in one of the great rivalries in the history of college basketball and universities for that matter, in Michigan, Ohio State. Do you agree USC's brought a hard edge or a little bit of a chip or aggressiveness?
Well, even so, Coach, because they won the last 3 games. It should have been UCLA, like, we need to get some get back because we have lost, but USC still had the chip on the shoulder that we still have to prove that we're not just little brother.
Clearly done that tonight, 4 in a row over the Bruins.
Well done to break the press. And they foul McLaughlin. Wrong guy to put at the line. The veteran is above 80% on the season. Foul number 9 on UCLA, and so 1-1.
Keep in mind, Benny Boatwright will be returning within the next week or two. He's been out with an injury. He's a frontline player with versatility to step away from the basket and make shots. He play makes as well. When you add him to the Trojans roster, their depth and ability to continue to play at pace and wear opponents out will only be at a higher level.
I think coming into the season, if you could have picked one guy on USC as the most irreplaceable, it would have been Benny Boatwright. Here they are without him for most of the season, about to go to 18-4. Here's Holiday. It's a 3, but nowhere close. Stewart's got the rebound.
Joe, give credit to McLaughlin in the backcourt, controlling tempo, when to go, when to pull back. So when you lose your best player, if you have a solid guard core that understands how to play the game, they can keep you within striking distance or take you ahead. So the game is built around point guard play. And when you have a valuable asset like George McLaughlin, who's a veteran, savvy player, he puts your team in situations where they can be successful.
So the Trojans, who went 13-0 in non-conference play, won their opener in the Pac-12, but have gone 3-4 since. They still sit at 17-4, but coming into the night, your message, Jim, was here's an opportunity to get that signature win to kind of put this resume over the top.
Well, it was. Again, in the non-conference, the win you had, you know, SMU, top 50 win, okay, that's there, but not one that stood out. And now you have an opportunity here to close it out.
Hamilton hits a 3. 8-point game with 25 seconds, but ahead of the pack is Aaron. Ball is fouled shooting a 3, and Enfield beside himself as Stewart fouls it.
My sense is when UCLA and Coach Alford go back and watch video, there are a number of areas they can improve upon naturally, as there is in any game that you lose. But those sequences where they had crawled back in the game in the second half, cut it to 4 points, and had the ball with a chance to cut it to 2 or 1, they came up empty, and USC came down and pushed it to 7. That's a big swing. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but Leaf was not involved in the last 15 minutes of the game.
Finished with 8 points, but I don't think he took a shot over the last 14 minutes. Yeah, 14:07 was Leaf's last shot attempt.
And those are correctable areas. So the encouraging thing, if you're UCLA, you can show film, work on situations of practice, time, and score. and improve in those judgments. And then the real basic one is let the big dog eat. Get TJ Leaf, get Welsh touches.
First game of Leaf's career where he doesn't score at least a dozen, barring a flurry here in the final seconds. So UCLA will fall to 19-3, 6-3 in Pac-12 play. It's going to be an uphill climb if they're going to win their first regular season conference title in 4 years. A rough night for Alford. Don Hamilton did a big second half, but it's not going to be enough for UCLA. The week of the upset, college basketball. 1, 2, 4, 6, and now 8 have all fallen. USC knocks off UCLA.
I love the discipline. The Trojans late down the stretch, not allowing what happened with ASU, Arizona State, to creep back in mentally. Made the right plays, got to the free throw line, but stayed solid offensively, but not trying to force things. But defensively, did just the little things it took to secure a victory at home.
Yeah, and taking it to a headliner big picture, this was good for the Pac-12 because UCLA can afford a loss. USC needed this win to get back into the top 25, which strengthens the league. High tide rises all ships. And at the end of the day, UCLA is a team that's going to win 25, 28 games.
They've now won 4 in a row against their crosstown rivals dating back to last season. For Jim Jackson and Steve Lavin, Rob Stone, and the rest of our fantastic crew here in Los Angeles, we say goodnight from the Galen Center, where USC beats UCLA 84-76. Now it's time for Fox Sports Live with Jay and Dan.